Okay. Hopefully the exterminator handled all of the gremlins last night. We had a number of disruptions at the very beginning, which caused me to pre-record like a 30-minute news breakdown or headline breakdown of what we were going to talk about anyway. And then we went live after that. Well, that's kind of a format that I wanted to do anyway. I wanted to do this morning deprogram and then evening infinite plane radio where we discuss everything that was brought up that morning. And I would like to institute that as soon as possible. So that is on the agenda for 2025. Looking forward to the alien invasion, space junk, fake nuke, and whatever the Luigiites are going to do. This war on CEOs, on the system, on capitalism, there's something up here. Antifa, like Antifa on meth, was one of the features in the show The Madness. And that's the show where the character, the CEO, the billionaire, who's financing the racists online and who bought the election, he's based on Musk, and he gets killed. So I'm like, okay, that's got to be some kind of foreshadowing. Again, tonight we celebrate the dog star, Sirius, the star that all the secret societies worship and fixate upon. And at midnight, it will reach its highest point, and then it will fall. So when the ball drops and you're counting down, you're supposed to be praying, I believe, to Sirius or something. I'm not sure how it works 100%, but I know it's pagan. And we're all taking part in it. All right, joined by Austin 108, Kevin Mooring, Diana Southard, Tracy Banton, Ears Up. Yeah, Anufel says, Happy New Year for the mind-free people. Yeah, to be considered awake, in my opinion, you have to be off-world stage. It's not a truther position. It's not a woke position. Those are false awakenings. This is a rude awakening. I mean, it can be. For me, it was a gradual paradigm shift. For others, they experience it as a series of paradigm shocks. And a lot of people aren't even able to receive it. They're not receptive, which is fine. It all goes over their heads. I mean, we always talk about symbolism, how it's in your face and no one sees it. And I understand it's because it's so subtle. But once it's been pointed out, and we're not talking about cognitive bias or I guess what it would be self-fulfilling prophecy or just cherry picking. There are various logically fallacious ways of, I guess, attributing some kind of order where there's chaos, but we're just pointing out facts. You know, we're not conspiracy theorizing here. We're just pointing out, hey, this particular event has these features. And for these reasons, we think it might just be a hoax or a simulation. And every time we dig into these things and we go deep into what I call the Metascript, we find our analysis to be consistently validated. And so, for example, the image of Luigi hanging out, in the back of the cop car smiling, and then you've got the air freshener, which is Wade Wilson, or Deep, is it, what's his name? The derpy guy. I mean, I'm sorry, I just don't like the character very much. The Deadpool. So Deadpool is an anti-hero, so that kind of fits. But his name is Wade Wilson, and Wade Wilson happens to be the name of a very popular serial killer with all kinds of groupies. So there's another connection to Luigi, killer with groupies, and he also has a tattoo on his face of the Joker smile. Well, today someone just sent something else to me. I believe it came from They're Already Here. I didn't know this, so this is posted on X. Joker's true name finally revealed by DC. The Flashpoint version of the Joker reveals that the main DC Joker is named Jack Oswald White. This is a new twist on his possible real name, which has been hinted at in other adaptations. So I'm not too familiar with the various versions of him, but the Oswald connection here is kind of interesting in light of the recent reference to Oswald in conjunction with Luigi being perp walked, dressed like Oswald. And we're not the only ones to point this stuff out. And I make this point of this too. If you're looking at a psyop or a hoax, basically theater, you should look at it like it's a Kubrick film. There are no accidents. If it's in your field of view, if it's one of the photos that's put up there, it has some significance. It's a safe assumption. And so we were picking up on this Joker symbolism and Riddler symbolism with this character some time ago. But the Oswald connection was also kind of interesting to find out about here regarding Joker. And I want to point out, too, that by all indications, Kubrick directed the fake JFK assassination. And Oswald is not a patsy. Like Thomas Crooks, like Luigi, he's just a LARPer, an actor. But Kubrick also directed Full Metal Jacket, and the main character is basically based on JFK, the war photographer. And his name is Joker. And there's a number of Oswald references in that particular movie, but specifically, though, on his helmet, he's got this JFK reference in the form of a target on the side of his head. Yeah, let's talk about FOGVID. The big story right now is FOGVID-24. Fog is the new drones. Like, drones are out, fog is in. And it was predictable. The same people are promoting it, the same style of shillery. It's all shills. In fact, I made this meme with Drake. It's like the new current thing. Drones, no good. Fog, yes. And it's happening. Like, it's FOGVID-2024. FOGVID-24. It is the thing. And a number of people are claiming that it's making them sick. They're actually getting sick from it. I have a few headlines regarding this supposed FOGVID-24 conspiracy theories. This is from Daily Dot. Engulf social media. Government conspiracy, aliens. You decide. Conspiracy, and this is all money for them. Like, at this point, we have to realize that alternative media is unserious. This is tabloid journalism at best. It's unserious. It's clickbait. And I think it says something about where we are as a society and what role media really has for a lot of people. And I'm starting to think that we shouldn't take it so seriously. As in, maybe we should look at it more as the screen, the glowing screens and the doom scrolling and just people, just info junkies. But what are they craving? What is this experience? And I think it's similar to like a campfire. Like, this is a big communal campfire, and people just want to hear the best stories. Some people want to be scared. Some people want to laugh. But I think it's all just really a form of entertainment, infotainment, and it's not really real. I mean, the news stories that they focus on are, like, for all intents and purposes, a form of entertainment. It's not journalism. It's not objective. And I would argue that anything on the world stage media is unobjective, just because every story presupposes that all of the recent news events have been real. Many of the things that are obvious psyops, which we've decoded, deconstructed, exposed, many of others have done this too. If you think about it, nothing we say matters. The official version of history will always reflect the mainstream news. So that means that the mainstream news rests upon an edifice of lies. So it's a fictional universe. It's a closed system. All right, joined by Flozik, Lord Laney says, pack a Truman Dog Star New Year's penguins. Yeah, we could talk about the symbolism of the Dog Star. It is interesting. Tracy Banton, technology, the new year is the first day of spring. Joined by Mizell, X322. And Nilful says, Tim, I suggest you watch the South Park episode Mexican Joker. Maybe you can find something interesting there. Well, just to put this in context, there's been a number of overt connections between the Batman universe and various terrorists and shooters and assassins since Dark Knight Rises and the Joker shooter. Layers of coincidences. Like, the shooter is shooting in a theater right after they watch a trailer for a gangster film where the gangsters shoot through a screen at people in a theater. And then you have the Boston bomber, nicknamed Joker. And we find all these fascinating connections, and the movies reference these events, and it's all a closed system of ideas, but what they have done is they have used fictional universes as vectors for propaganda, for establishing narratives in people's minds. Like, I think the people who are in love with Luigi likely fell in love with Joker. And it's this like transference. They identified with the story, the kill the rich, the rising up, people dressing like the killer, the glorification of this individual turned into some kind of a martyr, and the show trial. I mean, the trial that becomes like a TV show, court TV. It's going to get that. It's already that way, you could say. But so this Joker connection goes into every one of these various Trump events as well. These Trump court appearances, for example. 4/4/2023, which happens to be the 55th anniversary of MLK's assassination, Trump is in the courthouse, and Joker 2 is being filmed outside. And the public thinks that the crowd is there for Trump. But no, they're gathered for Joker because they're actors. So this is like a blending, of real and fake. And then you have the other event where the individual burns himself in front of the courthouse, 4/19. Lots of interesting stories there. Robert De Niro showing up outside the courthouse. Well, Robert De Niro is the TV host, Murray Franklin, who gets shot by the Joker. And of course, the Joker is based on a Robert De Niro character, Travis Bickle. So anyway, this overlapping of fictional universes is a tool. They're consistently using this. It's a strategy, but it's an easy way to get ideas into your head. They access it through the so-called entertainment. Dylan Parrish says it's been foggy for years. Well, people are uploading videos of fog. We'll get into it. It's another hysteria. Eddie F says doom scrolling is all we have. Do your thumbs get sore from all the doom scrolling? Like if you were to translate the average, Twitter junkies thumb scrolling, the screen is 4 or 5 inches, and over the course of the day, like if they were to drag themselves across the earth by their thumbs, it's like miles of doom scrolling. I mean, miles of content just absorbing. I mean, it's pretty toxic if you don't have I guess some kind of a filter. If you just believe whatever you see, it can be very detrimental to your health. I mean, we talk about this because like recently with the drones, people were reporting that drones were making them sick. In fact, in that article I was posting here, people are saying that the fog is making them sick. People are saying, there's a lot of people here. TikTok on X publishing about a nefarious fog, unusually thick and made of particles. Some are saying it smells like metal, like aluminum. People are suggesting it's chemtrails. But I don't think there is anything. I think there's literally nothing. Okay, thank you, Tracy Benton. It says, technically the New Year is the first day of spring. Yeah, it depends on the calendar you're looking at. I mean, it makes perfect sense, this whole Christmas and then New Year's following, if you think about the idea of the sun reaching its lowest point, like the moon, yet the new moon, new sun. I mean, it makes sense. I think it comports with the solar myth of the sun god and his birth. As far as relevant movies that we've been discussing that have relevance to specifically like the fake news, Megalopolis, the end scene is right after they celebrate Saturnalia, which we just had. And that was the scene where you had the Elvis impersonator wrapped in a flag singing Trump's inauguration song. But the movie ends on New Year's Eve with the ball dropping and they're holding the child. So there's some kind of pledge to humanity scene. I mean, if you haven't seen Megalopolis, Francis Ford Coppola, it's visually cluttered. I'm trying to be nice. I don't hate it. It's worth studying. It's great. It's a great mashup of whatever he originally planned, and they threw in a heavy dose of the Matrix. The main character looks like Neo, hangs out with this Lawrence Fishburne character in several Matrix-like scenes where his driver, this Lawrence Fishburne character like Morpheus, is describing the nature of time. And it also has in it many elements of Dark City, the strangers who freeze time and change everything up. But in this movie, they're called the Design Authority. I would refer to the Metascriptors as the Design Authority. And they do, in fact, control time. They control time because they write history and they perform it in advance. And, I'm not saying everything is fake. People kind of straw man it. No, certain things are fake. Good liars don't lie with every single breath. They lie strategically when you trust them. And people have trusted the media for a long time, and the media lies strategically, and it gets away with it every single time. But it's not just that they are able to execute these events, but when they fake an event, it becomes the center of the news cycle, and people bounce off it as though it's real. So these fake events are it's like a rock thrown into a pond. It has ripples. They affect the entire news cycle. They drive the narratives. We have a fake news-driven media ecosystem, and that's really where its power is. And then if you think about, again, what I've been saying, and this has been the emphasis, I think, for the last few weeks, is that the fake news aggregates, piles up, never gets purged. There's never any, let's go back and falsify our old reportage. No, it's pretty much carved in stone. I mean, with the exception of the occasional, like Jussie Smollett type event where somebody tries to fool the media and they get exposed, that's all just performative. There is no internal kind of auditing. It all gets a pass. So what I'm saying is, it's not hyperbole to say that our history is infused with a lot of fake news, and therefore our history is somewhat manufactured, or largely manufactured, because it's not just what they fake and what they focus on, but what they exclude that really also forms a big picture. But I have a book coming out in a couple of days. I'm putting some art into it. It's called Lie World, which explains this in as concise a way as I could. And I think I'm trying to make the case here for something. And I think that if the message, if I'm right, and I'm also inviting people to prove me wrong, but if I'm right, it is something of a, as I said earlier, something of a paradigm shift with regard to media consumption, worldview, and why it matters. Poncho Lefty says, let's make it a great year. All the best. It's out to, really, I'm surprised. I thought the flat earth thing was dead. And it's not really about the shape of the earth. It's about this group of skeptics who are, I'm not saying they're jaded or cynical, but they have super high standards. And the fact that you have so many people just questioning the Antarctic thing, it's funny. Whatever you think of the final experiment, if you think that vapes it, fakes it, wits it, gets it, if you think that he was faking being in Antarctica using a vape, it's hilarious. And they don't see the humor in it. They're mad. They're mad that nobody believes them. They're disowning people. And I'm like, you've been around these skeptics. We've been mocking and laughing at NASA this whole time. And now the same group is looking at you, and you expect them to what? Drop their standards and trust you? You should know better. You should be encouraging this. I would never say, trust me. I would say, this is my reason for thinking this is true. You can reject my reasons if you want. Yeah, over here it's mountain time, so I still have 3 hours. Eddie F. says, do you think John Levy pictures from the 1800s are fake? I haven't seen any that I think are fake. I think there's some wrong interpretations. I'm interested in this idea that our history is entirely manufactured and that we don't know what was going on 300 years ago. But I'm not sure if I accept the premise of Tartarian architecture and that this represents an advanced civilization. I don't know if any of these, remarkably beautiful buildings and cathedrals, do they have plumbing? Are they livable? Are they, we're talking about the external appearance of these things, but do they really represent an advanced civilization? Other aspects to it, they throw in there about antiquitech, technology where they heat up the house with only something that looks like a fireplace, but it's some kind of free energy thing. It's all very interesting. But I don't know. I'm interested in the investigations and the pictures. I think one explanation I heard for why there's no people in these photos is that the cameras had extremely long exposure times. So I've heard various takes on it. I also think much of his view comes from incredulity. He looks at a marble statue. We're talking about John Levy. He looks at a marble statue and he says, that's so beautiful, that's so intricate. we couldn't do that today. And so his argument is that this must have been some lost technology, some advanced kind of 3D printer. And, I can respect the admiration for the art, but these things are created by very well-known and well-understood methodologies, marble in particular. And you can get some remarkable effects. It looks like drapes and clothing on people. But to immediately jump to the supernatural is kind of fallacious. So I think he falls for both an argument from incredulity, argument from ignorance, and an appeal, a divine appeal or a divine fallacy. Like, I can't explain it, therefore a higher power. But I don't mind anyway. I like looking at the pictures. I like the presentations. Truth Hurt says ancient civilizations didn't need to eat or use the toilet. Yeah, exactly. They were breatharians. They were just subsisting off of free energy. And now we're a fallen species and we have to eat like the animals. But we used to be higher. Like, I don't know how they explain these things. What's happening? I will take calls. Truth Hurt says they got energy from the sun. I had this idea, but I have a conscience, so I won't do it. But I considered hiring a couple of crisis actors to pretend to be breatharians for like 3 months. But I'm just afraid a lot of people would copy them and die. But I thought it would be great, and I thought maybe as a twist, at the very end, they would all be caught like at a Burger King with Whoppers or something. Totally staged. We need our own PsyOps department. I have a lot of ideas for PsyOps. I have a folder here. Repopulation postcard, says Dylan Parrish. Right. The orphan children, orphan trains. Well, there's this movie series on Netflix that kind of makes me think about mud flood. The reason why the mud flood theory is interesting to me is that just like the basic idea of a recent civilization covered over. So, for example, there was a series, I think it was called Chronicles of Shannara, based on some fantasy series, where these elves are running through a forest. And it turns out that this fantasy world, this fantasy Lord of the Rings-like movie takes place like 500 years in the future, after we nuke this place. And they fall through the forest, through a hole in the ground, and find themselves in a ballroom. And it's the 20th century in the ballroom. And they laugh at a picture of a newspaper showing a moon landing. They just kind of hint that the 20th century got buried. So that's what's kind of interesting about this idea, that the previous civilization gets buried and something new starts on top of it. But there's this series called The 100, where this AI goddess, this AI character called Ollie becomes like a god. She decides that man is a threat to the environment, so she wipes out everybody with nukes. Except for babies put inside of these space arcs. So you got these space arcs above the Earth full of children, and when they turn 18, they're sent down to repopulate. So the idea here is that the world's been destroyed and now it's being repopulated, and that's kind of what's built into this mud flood idea, that the previous civilization was wiped out and then repopulated, and these trains inexplicably show up, dropping off a bunch of kids. It's a fascinating story. Joe says read the PsyOp folder. I don't want them to steal my ideas. Like, I have a lot of ideas. And look right now, the public will fall for anything. Drones, FOGVID-24, they're ready for anything. And I have some ideas, but as I said, they will use them. And I don't want to give them advice. I feel like we've been improving their PsyOp game. Like, you notice that we don't see crisis actors front and center at every event, when they used to just really show off their special effects. Like Boston bombing, they're running around flailing with their fake rubber arms and stuff, and they're like, okay, they don't even care. Like that one guy, he's got the prosthetic leg and they're pinching his artery while they're wheeling him out in front of the cameras, and the ambulance is like half a mile away. So we're watching him finish the marathon with his leg blown off, and one other guy's just pinching the artery closed, and he's seated right up. So, it was hilarious, and we talked about these things, and I think they took our criticisms to heart, and now we don't get that stuff anymore. It's always just hearsay and rumor. they've toned it down, and I think it's strategic. All right, let's get back on topic. So FOGVID-24. Now, this doesn't prove anything. Just want to point out that there was a survivor of the recent Jeju air crash, and it was a 33-year-old flight attendant. Not insinuating anything, just pointing it out. By the way, I don't know where you're going to be on January 5th, but this is going around. On January 5th, this is going to be in the UK, but anybody's invited. There's going to be an alignment of intentions to bring back sunny weather and push back against the chemtrails. It says meditate, pray, visualize. Whether you're religious, spiritual, or atheist, all are welcome, online or off. We, the people, are going to change the weather over the UK with the 20-minute group meditation. We will bring back sunshine. January 5th, 9 p.m. This, GMT says, do it wherever you are. And there's going to be a live broadcast. Doesn't say anything about boiling vinegar, but I think that would be welcome. So there's going to be a group meditation to get rid of chemtrails. Interesting timing considering this fog thing is so big right now. Fog is so big right now. Chemtrails are probably going to be more popular than ever. It's not going to go away. I'm not fighting it anymore. Like I was trying to fight the chemtrails. Now I actually mute accounts on Twitter. If they say, okay, I mute the word spraying. So if you're tweeting me about spraying, I'm not getting it. And it's because they don't say, look, those are chemtrails. They take a picture of a cloud and they say, what are they spraying? So I muted the word spraying, and I'm not seeing chemtrails anymore. And my stress levels have gone down. Okay, for some reason the ringer was off. If you want to call right back. Sorry, it's a default thing. Ringer is on. Are you experiencing fog where you are? The fog of Siwar.
We could not complete your call. Please try again.
Okay, if you want to try calling right back, it'll get through. Joe Fiore says space junk helmet psyop time. Well, someone pointed out that the space junk helmet wouldn't be enough. So we got to be thinking about some kind of like Kevlar shield. Infinite Plane Radio.
Hey, what's up?
Just enjoying the last few hours of 2024. Any expectations for 2025 as far as plot twists?
Yeah. It seems like we're headed in a direction. I think there could be some left-wing violence, and that, fake violence, obviously, and that will cause right-wing. We'll see this Civil War thing heighten, I think, and maybe Trump will get his head blown off. I don't know. Maybe one of these, Laura Loomer, I don't know, Nick Fuentes, whoever. But I think something's going to go down, and we might see the right on the streets this time. And
I think,
other than that,
okay.
I think they'll just...
Well, I like where you're going with that, because that movie Civil War specifically had the scene where the Trump guy's in the White House, the other side doesn't want him there. They go in, take him out, and they specifically invite a black female soldier to do the shooting. And I thought, okay, so Kamala kills Trump. So I think you're right on target with that, so I'm glad you reminded me.
Yeah, I also think they're going to keep furthering like the long-term agendas. I think climate change is a long-term agenda. Fallout is a long-term agenda. I was thinking, man, like these people, right? And this is the topic I wanted to get into with you. These people, they have their own mythologies, right? They have their own flood myths, and they have these, spiritual things. And basically, I wanted to get into it with you, like what credence do you give to these claims of these Masons, these people that interpret the Bible in a certain way, these Solomonic magicians, and specifically the Thelemites, because I'm looking around, and it's a trip, bro, out here, and I'm seeing this thelemic agenda, and I'm wondering, like, is it really that we've transitioned into this new age, or are these people playing out and brainwashing people and ritualistically, changing people's energetic state through programming? Or is there some truth behind all of this crap?
Yeah, that's a
Because
good.
I can feel it.
That's a great
Yeah.
question because this, people ask, what the elite, what are they, what do they worship or something, and they try to come up with some idea of what it is. And my best interpretation, it's some kind of new syncretic blend of something much older. And the most recent iteration is definitely Thelema, which is kind of like an umbrella, and it contains all these other systems. That's what Crowley did, is he blended all these things syncretically. And I think that the fact that the head of that thing, Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard, were so, I think, pivotal as far as the space religion as a concept, along with Marjorie Cameron, it encapsulates it. So what we have is this, so did we transition to a new age? I would say yes. That the instant that we got turned into moved into the space age, I think that's pretty much the new age. We've been given a new universal vision, a new universal religion. And at the very core of it, there is this, I guess you would call it a cult belief system. And one of their core tenets, though, is that not only are we transitioning into a new age, but they're the ones who are responsible for making it happen. And I think a lot of their agenda, if you look at this Age of Horus concept, has been, I think, implemented very, very noticeably.
Absolutely, man. It's very apparent and it's mostly a cultural thing, I think. Yeah, and I looked a little bit into Egyptian mythology, and I saw that after Osiris dies, he's killed by his brother Set, and him and Set, Horus and Set are battling, vying for the throne, and they have this long battle. And I was thinking that could be potentially getting played out, this battle of the old patriarchal system, and evil versus this freedom, super woke, all inclusive, childlike, androgynous new system that's coming along. And eventually, when that's fully implemented, from what we're seeing, it's going to be this science fiction technology, this space age bullshit, bro.
Yes, absolutely. I think we are absolutely at this. It's like a replacement religion, but it's definitely infused with science fiction. But beneath it all, it has this more ancient worldview. Like, for example, when I was first meeting with the Thelema people I met, people who are involved with it, I was given a list of books to read. And one book they considered to be almost mandatory was Stranger in a Strange Land by Robert Heinlein. And they said that this book is a blueprint for the perfect Thelemic society. And it's about this guy going to Mars. And I think he forms this thing they have this church, like the World Church, but it's essentially like a return to paganism. But anyway, the idea of the New Age and the science fiction have always been blended, and it's very clear now.
And let me just say that Mars is underground. These people, all right, so the way that this new system came about, like it came about in the 1900s, they implemented a new monetary system, and it allowed them to expand infinitely. And so imagine how much labor you could buy with $1 billion. And these people are, and it leads me to the question, bro, so think about all the people in the background of these PSYOP events, and like the Trump one, for example, like all the people in the back there, it's like, maybe they're breeding people somewhere. Like, I really wouldn't put it past these people. And there's it's a big, at the end of the day, it is, religious, but it's also it's monetary, it's power. These people are merchants at heart. Maybe not the people way at the top, but all their, you know, proxies, they're all merchants. And they've been doing it for however who knows how long. And I think it's all about getting people to mine for them, getting slaves and
Well, see, this thing about people being underground and stuff, have you seen Fallout?
yeah.
Because the whole premise of that is that a lot of the people moved into these bunkers and they're there for generations. And they live in these like 3D or 360 LED screen rooms, like these big caverns that look like Earth. But you're talking about generations separate from the people on the ground. Completely different worldview. They don't know what's going on. And I look at that and I think, yeah, absolutely. It's like there might even be Martians already. And there was this former CIA guy who was on InfoWars, and NASA even put out an article debunking it. But he said that NASA has been shipping children to Mars for decades and turning them into slaves. And I thought, I'm like, well, maybe he got the right information, but Mars isn't in space, but they're sending them underground. And we could be, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've considered the same thing.
And it's like the 100 as well. I just started watching that, or not just started, but I'm a few seasons in, and you know those people in the what were they called? The people in the at Mount Weather, and they had been, and they pushed the whole virus crap as well, and that I found that interesting how they had the people in space, and they had the people underground at Mount Weather. And then they had the grounders, and yeah, it's a weird show, bro. All this shit is just, every single show is just
well, here's an Easter egg.
Propaganda.
Season 1, episode 13, because 113 has been consistently aligned with this PSYOP code for the fall of the space station. And like the Challenger exploding 1 minute 13 seconds, the Columbia exploding, the 113th launch, all these connections. So season 1, episode 13, 113, in the 100, that's the one where the space station, comprised of 13 nation segments, falls. And in that episode, they're also showing the characters in a bunker. And the old man in the bunker collects art from the 20th century and previous. And he has a painting on the wall of the Tower of Babel. And so I think there's a strong connection with the Tower of Babel, the space station, and then the idea of it falling on season 1, episode 13. Anyway, the whole thing is propaganda. And there's a lot of stuff in that whole series about digitizing consciousness and uploading it into this city of light. Very interesting all around, but propaganda.
Yeah, and I think there's a big push to, in every movie that's coming out and has been coming out, to get people okay with people getting killed, murdered, like shot in the face, like just brutal stuff. And that's it kind of leads me to a question of, you know, do you ever think, and I don't mean to be alarmist in any way, but do you ever think that, you know, because 2020 kind of showed me that this stuff will impact our lives in a meaningful way. Like, we all put on a mask. We all stayed 6 feet apart at the grocery store. So when it comes to this Civil War stuff, and, you know, it just seems like the sea of irrelevance is going to flood at some point. These truthers are never coming back. I'm never coming back. You're never coming back. And it's just the whole climate is, I don't know how slow it is, but it seems like they can pretty much ramp it up however much they want, but it must be very well thought out, and we just have to watch the show. It's a show, but I do think that it can have real life implementation in terms of, you know, I think they must have done resets, and whether they got reset themselves, I'm not sure, but
well, look,
I mean,
as a rule, I say it's all fake until proven real, but we have to be honest about the fact that, you know, people are people, and you do have, for example, the CEO shooter. That revealed that there are a lot of people on the far left who are totally cool with the idea of murdering CEOs. So that says something about the culture, about people's attitudes, about how desensitized they become and how self-righteous they are. So I think it's useful to know this stuff, to be honest. The fact that they're not revolted by it, that they find it to be commendable, that's psychopathic. But it's interesting that right before that event in the Netflix series, The Madness, which is about mind viruses, I think, but The Madness, the CEO who represents Musk gets killed. And it's like a heroic thing. So, yeah, I think the media is damaging people, or it's revealing something. I'm not sure which.
I feel that. Yeah, it's just eerie in certain ways. But yeah, I just think that the way that it's headed, it's headed for a big change, just in terms of the technology that's coming out and what things are, what they are saying things are supposed to look like. 2050, it's like, all right, what the hell is 2050 going to look like? If you're talking about climate change and the world's going to be this, it's like, all right, are you going to need to take us up to space? Like in, what's it called? Are you going to claim that? Are you going to, but, yeah, I think the best we can do is what we're doing here. I tend to focus more on the government and academia part of I get my media and entertainment breakdown from you. So just know that you got people out here, bro.
Great.
We're cracking it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm glad you're in the think tank, because this think tank has been consistent and integrated since 2017, and we've been, through some permutations and development, but I think we've been fine tuning. And so I always appreciate all these different viewpoints, because what we're doing here is, it's actually very entertaining and it's constructive. And since we're based on suspending judgment, we're not getting the negative effects of being emotionally entangled with these stories. So I like the detachment from it as well.
Not at all, man. Best thing you can be is unbothered, unfazed, and just focus on what's important. Know thyself.
Right. Well, that's a huge part of this, because a lot of these psyops are based on people not being aware of their own vulnerabilities to certain logical fallacies, and these are just ways that ideas get past people's mental immune systems. And so that's one of the things that I've been focusing on too, is, what is our own culpability in accepting a false belief? What misled us to, or what could have triggered this? And some people get mad when you try to take away their beliefs, but I'm like, you're better off being a non-believer with reason than believing something because of some emotional need or otherwise.
Yeah, they're best. It's a cult, big time. And I just heard about this fog thing, and I was just like, holy crap! Like, it just shows you. I think this new TikTok research, where I don't know. This is what I wanted to bring up. Is like, is it just grifters, or is there some agenda on these platforms to promote these things? And so if something has 1 million likes, right? It's like, it gives it some form of credibility in the minds of a lot of people. So it really changes things when it's being pushed out there so much. It's like, fog, bro. Like,
I think it's
foggy as hell.
It's way too sophisticated an operation. I don't think this is random people on TikTok. I think it's and the way that these TikTok videos are produced and then published on big X accounts that are blown up. I think it's strategic, and what we're looking at is an active measure where this demographic is being targeted with these things in order to confuse, bewilder, whatever the agenda is. But there's nothing organic about any of these things that trend. And I noticed that the witnesses, whether it's the hurricane damage witnesses or people, they saw something in Maui, or now the fog or the drone people, there's a certain style to it. They all look like, a lot of them look like actors to me. So I don't think it's real. I think it's inorganic, and it's being pushed, and it's very effective. But I don't think that I don't think it's anything more than a strategic, I guess you would call it an active measure. And it's meme warfare, and people are bowled over by it.
Do you have any theories on, because they must have some airtight NDAs. I was wondering what you thought about these crisis actors and how they could get away with it without people coming out with it.
Yeah,
Because there are
right.
major events like take the Twin Towers and shit. It's like, all right, there was a lot of people that were supposed to be in that building. 9/11 was before my time, but you know what I'm saying? A lot of these events.
That's a good question. That's a good question. Well, so with 9/11 in particular, you have to consider that on that day, there were 88 drills, mass casualty drills. We're talking more than 1,000 live mass casualty actors active that morning rehearsing terror attacks. So that tells you that you had a number of closed sets with actors on the set. So it was like a closed movie set. But how did they prevent them from talking? That's another question altogether. And I think it's an interesting one. Like, why haven't we had any whistleblowers? Why haven't any of these obvious actors dropped some information about how they were involved in some kind of a staged event? And we have noted that many of them tend to have, like a lot of crisis actors who've been investigated, tend to have some kind of background where, like, seems like some kind of a deal was made with the law enforcement. So these might be federal informants. So I'm not quite sure, but it's like that movie Utopia. Maybe there's a crisis actor island. Maybe they're separate, but yeah, it's very puzzling.
Yeah, I do think that they pull a lot of people from prison. Any intelligent people that pedophiles, they probably get those just, sociopaths and just scums and people that just, like, I feel like a lot of these politicians, even if they are occultists and stuff, most of them are focused on carrying out their material desires and their five senses, being able to eat whatever they want, sleep with whoever
and with NDAs, it's important to note too that non-disclosure agreements are no longer binding if they're supposed to cover illegal acts. Like if something illegal happens during this event, and this explains why there's no real whistleblowers, is what are they blowing the whistle on? Nobody's dying. So there's no crime being committed. So therefore, there wouldn't be any whistleblowers, and they might be well incentivized financially and otherwise to keep their mouths shut. Future gigs. Some of our favorite actors have performed multiple roles. And we look at David Hogg getting into politics. There's a future for them.
Oh, that guy is weird.
It's amazing how, though, they go from a staged event to now they get involved in world stage politics, and they're never called out for their essential non-existence, for the fact that they're like, hey, you're not even real. Like, you are literally LARPing right now. You're a character. You're still in character. You never got it. This is how they fuse things, though. They have fused the real with fake, and they can create people out of thin air. It's like time travelers. It's an incredible power.
Yeah, and if somebody came out, it would just go into the sea of irrelevance, man. A few 100,000 likes, nice little story, and everybody's going to move on. What was it last week? And then what's it this week? It's like, I don't fucking know.
Yep, exactly. CEO shooter, drones, fog, and then next week, maybe Fallout. I'm hoping for Fallout.
When's Luigi out of the picture? It's like, what I'm saying? Not long, man. I don't know. This might be a bigger story, but yeah.
Well, you mentioned left wing getting violent and there being some counter response. And I do want to point out that in the movie The Madness, which foreshadowed so much of this, there is a character who remarks that when the killing happened, he said, "This is our turning point." And I think that's a reference to the Turner Diaries, Turning Point USA. So I think that instigation may actually precipitate something, obviously staged in all likelihood, but I think that it has been said, like it's been put out there, that like stochastic terrorism, like they put out there, like, hey, look, let's float this idea and see if we are ready to do something crazy. And everyone's like, yes, we're ready for this. So I kind of think the left has been primed for something.
Absolutely, man. Everything that's going to happen, whether it's 20 years from now, it's all being put out there. The idea, no, it's not even just the idea. it's not even just in the entertainment, it's in the media telling you that it is going to happen. They tell you, hey, this is going to happen, and then it happens.
Yeah, it's really incredible. The news benders. I call it the news benders. That play describes it perfectly. And we are living in a news bent reality. And it's fascinating to watch it with the perspective that we have, because we're not caught up in the visceral drama of it.
Yeah, I hope we can, you know, get help each other one day. And I'm into farming and stuff, and I'd like to get some land, and because we need to. I don't want to say we need to get off the world stage or anything like that. People have their lives, but it would be nice to have a place where like minds can. I don't know. The think tank is excellent, my man. What you're doing is.
I know what you're talking about.
Bro.
I mean, I saw this thing. You've probably heard of it. This Bertaria thing, right? Where comedian Owen Benjamin sets up this big event, and the thing that he does, whether you like him or not, or care about his comedy, what he did is he created a venue. Since he's not going to be accessible to any world stage venue. And I don't ever plan to curry favor with the world stage. I don't ever think that what we're doing is going to get any kind of acceptance in Trutherville. So we always have to think about our own venues. And one of my objectives for 2025 is we have to have an Auto Hoax Con. We've been doing conferences to kind of test the idea and see if we have enough speakers and content, which we do. But we need to do it in person. Like, we need to have an event where it's not conspiracy theories, it's not chemtrails, it's none of the usual stuff, no alien garbage, but it's specifically media fakery and auto hoaxing in general. And I think that needs to be done as a separate event. And so 2025, I had planned it last year. I was like, this has to be the year we do it before any kind of attempts to water it down emerge.
Yeah, marketing these days is just key, man. I have some things in the works, and there's going to be a day where I come to you with a proposal, and I'll see what you think. Because, it's all it really takes is, but they're censoring you so hard, and it's so obvious, but it only takes, from one of us, one viral video to, triple the subscriber count or the follower count. That's how it is these days. And the dumbest videos get thousands of likes, but the way that you speak and the way that you articulate things is very powerful. And the way that you're not like a robot and you have a sense of humor is perfect for this.
Oh, thanks. That reminds me, because I've been doing clips. We're now live streaming concurrently on TikTok. And I'm doing this on purpose. I'm trying to get out there because I think we need to do clips. We have to realize that there's not just a competition for attention, but maybe even shortened attention spans. And I think we want to reach people with a 30-second sound, just a sample, and then bring them into the think tank that way, because this is always long form. We've been talking here for probably looks like almost half an hour. And so to get people into this, we need to think in terms of how do we get sound bites that can go potentially, viral. So great suggestion.
Yeah, and there are a lot of people out there that this is an intellectual group, and there are a lot of people out there that actually value that or will come to value that from listening to you. It's very inspiring to, think critically about everything. Question everything, really, is the motto. And as for it really, certain things like the music, I'm really going to promote the music as best as I can. I have certain things that can help towards that. The music is really crucial. You make certain skits with the music, and everything can change, man. Everything can really change.
I agree, and I'm definitely interested in any suggestions you have. And and as far as your previous point, this is a platform that leans more philosophical than political, and I'm hoping that a lot of people get exhausted on the political soap opera and gravitate more towards our line of thinking, which is essentially critical and not activist.
They will, bro, and that is the way that things are heading. The way that things are heading is towards the truth. In terms of, it might be really ugly right now as people, figure things out, but the memes are out there. People are, I don't want to say they're catching on because everything they're catching on to is contrived, but at some point, if you get to a certain level of memery, you're a big memer, a big, massive troll in the best way possible. And that is what is good these days. That's what's popular, and I'm fine with it. And I think that is part of the new agenda. I think,
That's true. That's true. I mean, look, we are the ones responsible for the most popular flat Earth meme, which is research flat Earth. And we started that through a billboard, and then we had it put on the Daredevil's rocket. But the proliferation of that particular meme can be traced directly to this think tank. And we have a number of instances where, we definitely emphasize memes because you're trying to be viewed over this, it's this cacophony, and it's psychedelic practically. It's so chaotic that you have to have a strategy to reach people and to be seen and heard. And imagery is important. The visuals are huge. And I'm doing a lot of work with AI generated art these days. So you see it in my newsletters. One of my themes recently has been penguins burning down the world stage. And these are, just visual accompaniments to what we're discussing.
Yeah, the world stage is a massive play. It's a comedy. It's a drama. It is a nightmare. Literally, it's a mushroom trip, bro. It's absolutely and the scale of it is absolutely perplexing, and it's so compartmentalized that there are real things happening to real people, and it's so well organized. I live in a major city, so it's just I look around and I'm like, what is going on here? What was I born into? What are we? It's all these questions, man.
Yeah, well, hey, we're generations deep into nonstop psyops and fake news enhanced history, which forms our collective backdrop. So, we're the Matrix movies always referenced because it describes the situation of being born into bondage, born into it. And I point out that everybody's programmed. We all go through the process. So the only option is to become deprogrammed. But there are no unprogrammed. Not watching the news doesn't protect you. Not paying attention, it reduces your situational awareness. And that's really what this is about. We're just trying to figure out what this is. So you're asking the right questions. And thanks again for calling, by the way. This is our last live stream of 2024.
Oh, I'm glad to be a part of it, man. I appreciate you taking the call and taking the time. It means a lot, bro.
Excellent. Well, definitely stay in touch. And we're always open in the Discord and Gilded. So anything with art, music, any ideas you have, please drop it, because I'm working on a number of creative projects, one of them being an animation, which will certainly need music for sure.
Undoubtedly, man. Appreciate you.
Okay, great. Have a great night, and Happy New Year.
You as well. Thanks.
All right, phone is open. And I want to say thank you very much to Nicotramus. The IPS thanks you for your support and participation. Nicotramus says, Happy New Year, IPS 2025. Let's figure out how to profit off our ability to predict the future. That's a good line of thinking. Think Biff Tannen. Look what he did. He got the sports almanac and he bet on horses. And I think you might be onto something. I know some places where you can do bets, but more than just bets. I mean, right now, it's safe to say that radiation emergency kits are likely going to be big sellers. Laura Loomer is selling those. And that's a key indicator because she's deep in the PSYOP entertainment complex. And so you have to look at what the insiders know. And that might be the next thing. It's not storable foods. Everybody's stocked up. It's not going to be masks or hand sanitizer. But you notice even in 2020, people trying to sell hand sanitizer were shut down in favor of bigger approved stores. It was not free market. I would have been all for it if it was free market, but it wasn't. There were entrepreneurs clearing out hand sanitizers in dollar stores and putting it on Amazon. And it's like, that's totally fair game. They're providing a service. Now they can be delivered anywhere. But others, anyway, my point is, it wasn't a free market. And PSYOPs, I always spell it with the dollar sign. Somebody's making money, and they don't want any competition from below. Aries Lee said, did anybody get sick? I was jogging, came home, got a fever, felt sick, lost my taste of smell. Probably drones. Probably drones and whatever came out of its fog. Plain Dakota says, the programming for space and dinosaurs is the first thing. It's on all baby toys and pajamas. Oh, it's sinister. You grow up as a baby. It's all dinosaurs. You watch the dinosaurs on cartoons. They talk. You see Barney the dinosaur. You hug Barney the dinosaur. So you're all about dinos. And then the first thing that happens when you get into school is they show you a globe. And then you have your dinosaur toys. And they say, oh, by the way, the dinosaurs got killed by a giant rock that hit the earth. So like immediately it's MK Ultra trauma-induced mind control. Like everything they know in terms of fictional characters. All these characters they got attached to, yeah, they died. Mass extinction. So before you can even say mass extinction, you know what it is. It's lesson 1 when you're like 5. Nicotramus, radiation detection, radiation PPE, radiation cleanup. We need to figure out. I didn't have the funding for it, but in 2020, I was talking about organizing a cleaning service where we drop off red biohazard containers at businesses with PPE, and then we collect the waste and take it to the appropriate facilities. If I wasn't live streaming, I would have been doing that. Now, there's this movie called The Humanity Bureau with Nicolas Cage that might give us some clues about what's to come. So if you haven't seen The Humanity Bureau, 2017 film, 2018, Canadian science fiction. In the future, war, climate, political agendas have robbed America of its resources, and a bunch of people are locked down, and they're locked down because of radioactive waste. Well, it turns out that there is no radioactive waste. It's a big hoax to keep people locked down. Imagine that, tricking people into locking down. Couldn't happen in real life, right? Now, this was 2018, but one of the things in the story is that the Geiger counters were illegal. Contraband. You weren't allowed to have the equipment that would allow you to detect that the whole thing was a hoax. So, you're like, do we want to sell these? Will we be able to? Harmon Walker, appreciate that. I sent you Cash App for the new year. It's the second time I've used it. Hey, thank you very much. I'll double check to make sure. I will respond with a penguin emoji. We have a few objectives for this year. One of them, of course, is AutoHoaxCon. Another one is the IPS Insider. RR says, I just got in here. What is the fog? See, I think the fog is the fog of Psywar. I think the fog is nothing more than a panic that is following along with the drone panic, and it has the same disseminators, the same meme vectors, the same people promoting it. So I'm suggesting it's fake until proven real. And here we are, second or third day of winter, like the first week after winter begins, and people are noticing fog. And a lot of people these days are not aware of stars and planets. For example, many people were falsely attributing or presenting, I think it was Jupiter and Venus as orbs. One of them was a Christian orb. Some woman was recording Venus and she was talking to it, and it said something about Jesus back to her, if you believe what you see in the video. And apparently a lot of people do. What's crazy is the crazy stuff gets promoted 10,000 times more than anything sensible that we might have to say here. Thank you, Harmon. Appreciate the support there. And yes, I just double checked. It did go through. And everything that goes into the think tank goes into the think tank. My entire life is directed towards this. And I have a lot of ideas for accelerating this. This is auto hoax accelerationism. And I think we need to push it as fast as possible and do as much damage as we can as fast as we can. And the reason why is you got to, I think, test it, test your model, debate its merit. And if it's breakable, if it's wrong, if it's fallacious, then it'll be destroyed in the process. But I happen to think that what we're doing has merit. I think there's a huge need, there's a vacuum where a lot of people are perhaps missing something in their daily life. And mainstream media is not filling it, alternative media is not filling it, and I think it's something else. And I think the parallel media can provide this. Aries Lee says, are you doing your own animations? I'm using Sora.ai, and I'm taking the script, rendering it into an animated storyboard. When that's done, early next month, I'm going to present that to animators and try to recruit them to work on the project based on my storyboard. So I have a storyboard, I have a script, it's ready for production, but I need to get some talented animators on board, and then I'll have to work with sound and everything, but the story's there. And I've been reading a lot of fiction related to this concept because I wanted to get a lot of ideas. And one of the things I've been doing is I come up with there's a visual I want. So I go to, let's say, Bing Images, and I create something like a cyborg penguin, for example, augmenting his flapper with an arm with a hand. And then I upload it to Grok, and I get a detailed description of it. And then I take that detailed description of it, and I put it through the video rendering site. So I have a system, and it's really remarkable. And I think it will help move the project faster than if I were to wait until I could afford to hire everybody. So whatever you think of AI, it's a labor-saving device and a leveler of the playing field. Thank you, Frank Murr. Appreciate that. Putting gas in the think tank. Okay, so you're an animator. You work on Flip-A-Clip. Well, my overall plan here is to turn this thing into a stop-motion animation production. And I would like for the characters to be 3D printed. So the characters, this series I'm talking about is animation. It's a series of penguins who have achieved the singularity. And it combines a number of things we talk about here. Deep underground bases, nootropics, the singularity idea of man taken over as his evolutionary driver from nature, augmented by technology, but in this particular series, the penguins have beat us to it. Copaesthetic says, why would vaping or smoking be allowed in Antarctica anyway? Aren't cigarette butts and vape canisters bad for Gaia? Yeah, look, there's a lot of people who are highly skeptical of the trip to Antarctica. It's like Apollo 11 all over again. RR says, Tim, it's all bullcrap. Get out and live. Hard to disagree with that. I think they want us super fixated on the world stage, on this circus, so that we become accustomed to living in the metaverse. They want us to invest in it. Social media is there for that. So you invest your identity in what other people think, well, people out there think. And I think they want us to get off the meatverse and get into the metaverse. Like lockdowns. Lockdowns were a bad thing at first, but if you think about it, what do people do when they're not working? They pretty much lock down. They plug in. And I think that's by design. I don't know if it's good or bad. Are we being tamed as a species? Are we being domesticated? Or are we being conquered? Is it because we're lawless and fickle in big numbers and possibly dangerous? Like, you ever think that maybe the PSYOP entertainment complex is here for our own good? Like, it does seem to be that the power elite behind this thing seem to think so. Okay, let me go ahead and see if we can catch up on my notes here. So again, January 5th, there's going to be a massive prayer session to pray away the chemtrails in the UK. Got a comment from Angle of Elevation, said, speaking of Vapegate, Flatzoid showed a live stream from a static weather cam at that same camp, and it showed overcast on that day. Yet the time lapse showed not a cloud in sight, which is highly and extremely unusual for that location. It's almost like they had California weather on a Scottish highland. So the plot thickens. So that was a comment left on a YouTube video. So what he's pointing out here is that if you look at the static cam at the site where the final experiment took place, it was overcast the entire day. But if you look at the footage that Vapesit and Jaren and McToon provided, there's no clouds. So what's going on here? Again, that's another reason why I'm suspending judgment. I don't know. And if you're going to be mad at me for not believing, if you're going to try to make it seem like I'm obligated to believe it as soon as it's presented, you're going to be waiting a long time and you're going to be disappointed. One of the tricks that they play on you is they make you feel like you have to believe the news as soon as it's reported. You got to cry or rage, react. And I'm like, wait 2 days, wait 3 days, make them wait while they prove it to you. And if there isn't any sufficient evidence to support it, if it's not a burden of proof that can be met from their end, you're under no obligation to take a leap of faith and just trust them. I'm a non-believer, and if someone doesn't like it, that's their problem. And you can't. And I'm saying this because there was a strong attempt by Jaren and McToon and Witsit to kind of bully people into just accepting their final experiment. And let me point out, it's not an experiment if the people conducting it are biased, not impartial, and have a financial incentive to achieve a certain result. I mean, McToon did bet crypto on the result. You had biased observers on both sides. So you can't even consider it to be objectively scientific. So let's not confuse it with an actual scientific experiment. All right, Nicotramus, appreciate that. Handed out 10 wrenches. Lucid Streams, Clump, Rhodius, Michelle Kastner, Portal Complex, Austin 08, Frank Zen, Michael Jones, Adam Cook have all received the blue wrench. It's all randomized. We're still waiting for you know who to be outed as a listener. I don't want to say the name. I've noticed if I say names, I tend to summon. So I was thinking about this. There are a number of names. I treat them like demonic seals. It's like I'm not going to look at that. I'm not going to think about that entity. Amazing, though. The final experiment brought down because of some vape addict decided to, I don't know, embellish a little bit. Like, here, I'll provide some. I'll show that my breath is vapor. It's all just condensing out here. It's fog. It's cold. We're in Antarctica. So he takes a hit from his vape and he blows it out. But it's only one breath. So what is it? Right now, the topic, FOGVID-24. Then we're talking about Vapegate. And by the way, if you missed it, and this is all thanks to you all, Infinite Plane Radio is number 33 on the TSL Power 50. We're way below Don Bongino and Steve Bannon and a few other well-known characters. Glenn Beck, John B. Wells, like John B. Wells. Ben Shapiro's number 20. Let's see who else. Just trying to find if I recognize anyone here. But anyway, yes, we are number 33 on the TSL's Power 50. And Clyde Lewis was number 1. This is for 2024. On Paranormal Radio, I believe we were number 8, or was it 8 in the top 13? Something like that. But if you didn't know, in addition to the video streams and TikTok, we're also live streaming on radio.net, Radio King, TuneIn, and several other radio, paranormal.radio. Missing footprint, says Lean Dion. Oh, the footprints are hilarious. So they're walking through the snow and you hear crunch, crunch, and it sounds like cartoon sound effects. Like, what is this, Pixar? Like, these are canned sound effects, I'm pretty sure. And I'm like, okay, I'm hearing them crunching, but I don't see any footprints. So where's the crunch coming from? And why is it so, like, I don't know, just so pronounced? Thank you for feeding the crack, Gwyn. Ted Striker 2112. So if you don't know what the crack, Gwyn is, imagine a kraken, but it's a big penguin. And we discussed the Sea of Irrelevance, where everybody lives. They're at the bottom of it. And we are in a raft. Penguins gather on top of the waters, and they call it a raft. So our raft floats atop the Sea of Irrelevance. We're actually buoyant, and they're not. People in the Sea of Irrelevance, people in the mainstream fictional universe, might find the truth about one or two events, but they can't elevate from that. They're still stuck in this muck because their worldview has been rendered subjective and incoherent, contradictory. But at some point, the raft is going to be so big that critical mass is what I call it, critical raft. It'll get so large that it'll be unignorable. Like, you know how the media likes to ignore things? Like, they ignore things until they have to address it. And I think they were kind of blindsided in some ways by the popularity of the NASA critics. And flat earther is a misnomer. It really is. It's way too nuanced to go there. We're talking about a question, a worldview question that has been strawmanned to death. But the mainstream and alternative media are not capable of confronting our perspective. They cannot confront it. So we'll see how this goes. But everyone here supporting this channel are essentially supporting this endeavor. All right, let's move on. Poncho Lefty says TuneIn's great. And yeah, by the way, we're on pretty much every single podcast platform you can think of. Go to ips.monster. And at ips.monster, you will find a listing of all the different the different podcast platforms. Like, we're on Spotify. I think we're on Audacity. I think we're even on Amazon Music, Apple Music. Spotify used to have, we used to have a huge following on Spotify, and it was growing, but we were shut down by a certain enemy of the IPS. And by the way, speaking of that, and I haven't spoken about it for a reason. I don't want to telegraph too much, but 2025 is the year that we finally close this thing. This is going to be the end of it. We're going to end it. The IPS versus this certain, what do you want to call him? QAnon influencer in the White House. This is the year. It's just a matter of really months, and it's inevitable. So if you're following the story, if you've been following the character Garrett Ziegler and his legal battle with Hunter Biden, you know what I'm talking about. So anyway, let's go look at some of these things. The fog. So a lot of people are claiming that there's a fog. Fog of war. It says, while shills have been spamming thousands of Elon threads, you've missed that the bird flu propaganda is ramping up and there are major recalls of milk, egg, chicken, and beef. And there's a mysterious fog covering 2/3 of the U.S. and it's increasing. In other countries, it's dry but full of dense particulates and it smells awful and it's making people sick. Additionally, Klaus Schwab has announced that 6 billion people are going to die this year. And the global community is furious that Trump is going to pull out of the World Health Organization on day one of his presidency. So keep talking about Twitter screen caps because that's not a distraction at all. So apparently we're being distracted by Elon Musk while the fog is here and 6 billion of us are going to die. Here's one from NJ Skies, Operation Sea Spray. Hydrophilic bacteria-infused particulates are behaving like a fog to spread disease. Operation Sea Spray. There's more here. There's quite a lot more. The particles have done some optical, or they have some optical brightening capacity, like you would see in a synthetic product with smooth, regular shapes and smooth surfaces. Breathing this in. What is this? Weird fog over Daytona. There's quite a lot here. I've been following this story all day. Pay attention, fog should have moisture. I drove through this thick fog, which by definition is when water condenses and creates tiny water droplets. Not anymore. This is a dry chemical fog. I drove 30 minutes through this fake fog. And this person is in Mississippi. All right, someone says here, this is a trust your instincts time. Okay, this is someone suggesting it's not just the fog, but it has a weird smell and it's making people sick and it's triggering respiratory illnesses and allergies. So here's a short clip of the fog. No, I think they added that soundtrack. I don't think the fog is making that sound. I'm with Nicotramus. There's got to be a way to profit off of this stuff. And people are buying into this anyway. Do we need to sell fog masks? Like, how can you sleep at night? You got space junk. You got the fog. You've got drones. Like, how can you feel comfortable? There's got to be something. And I have some ideas. I'm thinking some kind of cover for the bed. Like Kevlar. Like space junk protective, but then also it seals hermetically. I'm like, not like an iron lung, but kind of. But I'm trying to come up with something for, maybe even aluminum foil on the outside, 5G reflective. Can't be safe enough. Peter W. says fog helmets. Yeah, at a minimum masks, because they're saying these are chemicals and they're making people sick. And again, all the same people who are promoting the drone hysteria are all behind this. Don Keith says, first came the drones, then came the weird fog. Now there's reports of respiratory illnesses across the globe. Are we about to experience another engineered pandemic? I almost hope so. And it sounds cynical, but I almost don't care. Like, I wouldn't have a problem with it. It wouldn't bother me. It really wouldn't. At this point, I'm so inoculated against their psyops. I think it would just make our job easier. I think rather than protesting in the streets, I think a lot of people are just going to mentally segregate from all the brainwashees and the enablers. And I think that will help our parallel media grow. Mango says, I was watching I Dream of Jeannie, and she was knocked unconscious by space junk. Aries Lee says, remember the New Ager Sasha Stone had a 5G blocking skull cap. I looked into that, and yes, there are 5G protective blankets. It's beyond just tinfoil hats. A tinfoil hat's not enough. You got to wear a tinfoil hat and a chemtrail mask. And by the way, I have a comic strip based on a character who wears a tinfoil hat and wears a chemtrail mask at times. It's called Lie World, and he basically falls for every current thing. He's toxoplasmosis. He's got a cat, and he falls for every conspiracy theory. But if you haven't seen it, it's called Lie World. It's on my blog, and it's going to be published in The Insider. And I'm also using this title, Lie World, for my new book, which will be out in a couple of days. I mean, it's not new to those of you who've been listening as far as the ideas, but I've put them down, I believe, in the most concise and accessible format. So if you're trying to explain what we're talking about to someone who has no clue, you could break it down in 30 seconds. Like, forget the military industrial complex. It's the PSYOP entertainment complex that you should be paying attention to. But I am going to be releasing this in a few days. I think it's important to, every once in a while, put our best ideas forth in the most condensed and concise way, because we are developing something here as a think tank, and this is just one of its products. All right, so this has been great. If you want to follow my blog, it's timosman.substack, and I will be putting these in print anyway, so you're not going to miss them. I've got about a dozen of them, and I'm working on them all the time. I draw them, and then I I take a picture of it and I digitize it. So we got through most of my notes. There's still quite a lot more to talk about. I have to go to an event here. But yeah, so the big story right now is FOGVID-24. It's a panic that's just now sweeping the nation, well, now the world. We didn't spend a lot of time talking about the Antarctica thing, but it's not dying down at all. And people are going through it right now with the fine-tooth comb. So if there's any impropriety, if there's any fakery, it's going to be found. We're not making accusations. Here's someone else. Paul's Corner says it, quote, smells like spray. This fog is in Florida. It's 9 a.m. It smells like spray. Now, technically, I shouldn't have... Oh, no, I wrote that one. Okay, because I muted the word spray. Now, I don't know what spray smells like, but they're saying that this fog is a chemical thing. And look, if you believe that you're inhaling some kind of a chemical,
I'm done.
it might be a good idea to put on a mask. And speaking of masks, the other day we were looking at the story of that lady that was burned supposedly in the subway. They identified her. 60-year-old, her initials DK, I don't know the name, but the subway car that she was in had a number on it. And that number perfectly correlates to a mask that you wear to filter out particulates in the air. So I thought, that's interesting. We were trying to figure out what's the meaning to this. And I'll pull it up so you can see. Why is the subway car that the burning victim was standing next to, why does that number perfectly correspond to a very specific type of mask? The type of mask that you would be wearing right now if a mysterious fog descended over your town. We also found that in the movie They Live, a John Carpenter film, the power elite announced that they are going to be taking over and doing what they're going to do, the big agenda, in 2025. So we have that to look forward to. Okay, here it is. 9502. 9502, that is the subway cart where the person was burning. And the mask is 3M9502. Again, I think the thing was a psyop and a hoax. Fake until proven real. Mango says, have a great 2025. Yeah, this has been a great year for what we do. It's been very productive. I mean, I didn't get everything done by any stretch. The tabloid is still just kind of sitting there. But it's been very productive regardless. Nothing but good things to say about 2024. Hey, what's up, caller?
This is Harmon.
Hey, Harmon, thank you for the support there, and Happy New Year.
Oh, no problem. I'm so far behind on this. I've been unplugged for like a week and a half or two, and that's a lifetime. And what's this fog thing? I'm sorry if it interrupts your show, but can you give a real quick rundown for me?
So the drone thing faded away, and now a lot of people are reporting strange fog, and it's been dubbed FOGVID-24, and so it's trending right now. Tons of people are promoting videos, and they're just basically pointing at snow and fog, winter weather. But now the winter weather is being interpreted as something nefarious, and all the big channels on Twitter, like Concerned Citizen, all the big chemtrail channels, they're all saying that they're spraying us with fogs, chemical fog.
So they're creating their own reality in their mind.
Precisely, exactly. It's a panic.
Yeah, it's power suggestion. Power suggestion. That's why I look at it.
After the drone event, I said they could play Orson Welles' War of the Worlds from the original recording right now, and the public would fall for it. And this just demonstrates it all over again.
Yeah, I've probably been unplugged since like almost 20 days now. So I don't even know about it. So how is it going to affect me? See, as I thing is, I have no clue about it. Never heard it. It's the first time I heard about it. So see how that works? I mean, the people who don't listen, it doesn't affect them at all.
I say, don't mess with the blue pillars. Let them dream, because the people who aren't really paying attention are not really hitting the worst of it. They're not getting the sharp end of it. Like when it comes to the propaganda agenda, the truthers are the ones who really get the most extreme effects. They get the worst story, the worst takes, they overreact. The normies are kind of blissfully ignorant, and it's like, I don't want to mess with that sometimes.
Yeah, it's like all my family, they haven't got a clue, so this is the holidays, so I just been away, and that's crazy. I like that I was ignorant to all of it. I had no clue what it was, and so right now, from my point of view, looking at it, I laugh at it.
You dodged a bullet. You dodged a bullet because some people in New Jersey were reporting getting sick because they heard rumors the drones were searching for nuclear waste or something. So radiation sickness. So the psychosomatic effect of the information we take in should be considered. And I would say that you dodge a mind virus.
Isn't it funny? It really is.
That's my attitude. It's entertaining. It really is. It's anthropology. It's educational, but it's certainly funny. It's absolutely a tragic comedy, but the worst news of it all is simply that we're dupes more than anything. That's really the worst of it.
I've always thought that whoever's playing this Monopoly game with this, do they just have fun? Do they think, hey, let's do it. Let's see if they believe this. Let's see if they'll swallow this one.
There are times where we get indications of some kind of inside jokes. The names are very funny, but I tend to think that the programmers are programmed 95% of the way, that they're not free.
Already programmed, yeah, just on autopilot, huh?
I think so. I mean, it recently came out that Elon Musk doesn't have the security clearance to go backstage at SpaceX. He might just be a useful stooge. Like, he may not even know. Musk might not know that space travel's fake. Like, he might actually be insulated from that.
I remember when you said they mock us with names and stuff. Remember that one Asian airline that crashed, and they had all like "fuck you" or something like that on the pilots' names. They were weird names, sexual names.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. Someone will put it in the comments, and I'll bring it up tomorrow. But obviously a joke, like Shakespeare type double entendres, definitely.
That female news reporter was just saying it, not even realizing what she was saying. I don't know, or did she know? I don't know. Maybe she didn't. They just told her to read this, and it was something wrong. One of them was something wrong, I think.
Yeah, Something Wong. I remember that one. Hey, Poncho Lefty, thank you very much. Someone here, Poncho Lefty just said Happy New Year. What city are you in? I want to say thanks to Blue Dog. Blue Dog says no fog in central Arizona. Okay, so there's no fog in central Arizona. Good to know.
Well, I live in Laughlin, Nevada, right on the Arizona on Nevada border, right on the Colorado River.
Okay. Very nice.
I haven't noticed anything. Matter of fact, our wind started blowing 2 days ago and hasn't quit.
There's a fog here in Albuquerque, but it's because we have, I think, more dispensaries per capita than any other city. It's like every other street corner, every other gas station has become a dispensary. So there's always a fog here, but it's not a chemical fog.
Yeah, our skies are as clear as a bell. And that guy from Central Arizona, I wonder where he's from. Where's Central Arizona? I don't know.
Well, hey, I've got a question. If I do Auto Hoax Con 2025, what would you prefer, Phoenix or Las Vegas? Because I'm trying to determine where do I need to go where I can get the most people to physically show up, not just online.
Well, it's more expensive to go to Vegas, but people seem to want to go there. But it's cheaper to fly into Vegas if it does happen. So the flights to Vegas are definitely cheaper than going to Phoenix and stuff. That's all I can go off of by the prices. I
consider Denver. I mean, I live in a place that's pretty easy and cheap here, but I don't know if this is a place where I can attract the numbers that we're going to want for this Auto Hoax Con.
It really is cheap to fly into the Vegas airport. They promote that, so that's the only thing is Vegas is cheap to fly into.
Speaking of, I recently revisited the Vegas PSYOP, and a lot of those people who were at the event flew in from California, which is kind of weird. Like, who flies from California to go to a country music concert? And
my friends all did. All my friends did.
Okay.
They love it. They all go in there.
Well,
But they drove.
Okay. Well, the thing is, they flew in and they flew out, and there was this. I was going through
That's
it.
not normal.
No, you got to see this article I just posted where 50 people who were shot at the Vegas event were shot at again at another concert in California. That's why I thought.
Right, I remember that.
I'm like, okay,
Yeah, just a few months later.
talk about
Yeah,
bad luck.
Same people. But yeah, no, like I understand what you mean. People flying in. No one hardly ever flies in from California. They always drive. They drive in and drive back out. And what was so funny about that Vegas event? One of my friends, he was CNN had posted, and him and his wife were running. He was at the concert, but they took the picture caption, and he was the thumbnail for all of CNN.
Oh wow. Okay.
So I thought that was funny. But I said, I questioned what happened. He says, "Well, we don't know. We just ran. They herded us all through this one little narrow area, and they just told us to keep going. That's all he knew." And he had gone through the stage, and right on the stage, CNN had taken that picture and used him and his wife as the thumbnail.
Interesting. Very not suspect, because that was an open event. However, they had their cast of characters in the crowd. I mean, one way to look at these, because there's various types of psyops. Some of them, like the Boston bombing and Vegas, those are performed in a manner akin to a flash mob, where the mob's there in the crowd and then they all act on cue. And that's what we saw in that particular event. Okay, well, hey, Nicotramus, anything for 2025? Any expectations?
Well, can you hear me?
Yes, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I had a video of when they were doing, they were, of course, they erased a lot of the videos and got rid of them of the Vegas event. But this one guy went down to help a guy he thought was wounded. And the guy looks up at him right there. He's videoing it. Says, "No, I'm part of the exercise." He said.
Oh yeah, I love that one. I think he had like a bullet hole in his head. He's like, "No, I'm dead. Keep going." Like, if people don't know,
you remember that?
Yeah. Actually, I do remember that. The whole scene. That was a big reveal where he's telling the security guard, "Hey, why'd you shut the lights off? We need to check these people because none of these people have been declared dead. There's been no EMTs. They just shut off the lights." And the security guard's like, "Oh no, they're already dead. Just leave." I'm like, that's weird. And that whole event was it was a turning point for the think tank because
really that sheriff was in Hawaii. He was the sheriff in Hawaii. You knew that, right?
Yeah, the Maui event, which that shows you
he was the sheriff that was in charge of the Vegas event.
It's kind of a side note, but I've been doing a little bit of research into the reporters who cover certain obvious psyops, and then I look at their background and what other stories have they covered, and you can kind of get an idea of which reporters have the high security clearance and are involved in psychological operations. Because we call it psyops and hoaxes, but ultimately it's psychological warfare, and there's a lot of people who are intelligence who are performing as journalists. So it is interesting to look at all the characters involved in these various events. Always a clue.
You did hear it was probably why you went off on that was because you remember when Trump got his earlobe gone, right? That photographer has been the photographer of the presidents, I think, since like 79.
He photographed on 9/11/2001. He photographed the Secret Service agent whispering into George Bush's ear, and then he photographs the bullet whizzing by Trump's ear. Same photographer. And so I think it has something to do with the symbolism of the ear itself, the whispering in the ear, the bullet by the ear. There's some symbolism inherent in this, but the same photographer, both events, tying in 9/11 and assassination. And then you have the photographer who photographed the death of RFK, who also photographed the 9/11 falling man, Richard Drew.
Well, that photographer with the Trump guy, from what I understand, he was there when Reagan got the attempt.
Oh,
when
interesting.
He got shot.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I, from what I understand, he was the same guy there too. I'm going, oh my gosh, I go, that's just crazy if you think about it.
Hey, these are gigs. That's what I said earlier about certain crisis actors who get managed to get into politics and stuff. It's like, wow. That's like, I don't know. It's intriguing to watch the merging of fake and real, and it's revealing to look at these various actors on the world stage, and you can kind of get an idea of their of how they carry propaganda to the masses through the cover. It's like Trojan horses. So like Robert De Niro isn't just Robert De Niro with Trump
Oh
derangement syndrome.
yeah.
He's also
He has
the character
so
in
many
this
roles.
movie. Yeah, he has all these associations built into him. And that's a calculated move. So everything you see in the news, especially with big Hollywood actors, everything is contrived. And
Well,
everything
it
is
goes back
serving.
to that British show back in '69 or '7 when they were showing that 30 minutes clip where they predicted everything ahead of time. They told us what they're doing, right?
Oh, the
You know
newsbenders,
that
yes,
one.
the newsbenders,
Yeah.
and I really think that that is essential viewing because we live in a newsbent reality, and it's more than 5 years in advance, and we can prove it. We prove it every day. Uh, just the fact that the fake news gets a pass and never gets corrected and actually steers the broader narratives is evidence enough that our history is bent. And then the question is, who's bending it? Well, that's what we're always talking about here. And where are they steering it? And they're steering us into some sci-fi dystopia lockdown world. I mean, I don't know. It's bleak if you go off of their.
You want my 25 prediction? Is that what's going on tonight?
Yes, yes, or hope or
Um,
expectation.
I say, well, I always believe that the population number they give us is widely skewed, and following the numbers, and I think Eric DeVay did one and tried to add up the cities, and it just doesn't close to add up to 8 billion people. They always fluctuate 7.5 to 8 billion, and then someone will say more, but I'm leaning towards there's maybe just shy of 4 billion. I'm giving that a lot of that in the world.
So if that's true, then they could run a psyop and kill billions, and we would have no
Yes,
way to debunk it because they don't actually exist.
right. And so that's what I'm going to. That's my for 25-25.
Okay.
Because I remember the 2020 event that I got the printout from the military world exercise that it was supposed to end on March 20th of 2025. But then in 2025, John Hopkins put, and you can go and look at the John Hopkins site if they still have it. They put out that it's called a world exercise event. When I was in the military, which you were too, if your base had a exercise and there's a joint exercise with 2 or 3 other bases, they'd always say that on the paper, right? This is who's doing the joint exercise. Well, when that same paper I found, it said world event. So the world was in the 2020 exercise, which doesn't end till March 2025. But
Fascinating.
then, huh?
Fascinating. Go on. Go on.
Yeah, and so but John Hopkins in 2022 extended it. They weren't the ones who made it, so I don't know how they can extend it, but they extended it to 2028. So we're still in the exercise. So anything could happen. We're still in the original 2020 exercise.
Fascinating.
So everything.
Well, look, because there has to
And
be a certain level where people in government, media, and law enforcement, and even in the medical field, like in the hospitals and management, there's a certain level of people who are aware of big psyops, these mass casualty operations passed off as real, and there has to be an explanation that they're told that justifies it. And it seems
well, they
like,
say it's exercise.
yeah,
That's all.
it reminds me of that Ice-T character in that show, Are We There Yet? Where he says, no, the monkey flu is fake. It's just an exercise for the CDC to test out their system, but you guys have to stay locked down. It's like they kind of gave away the story then. But yes, I think that we are indeed, it's a good way of looking at it, we're living in a live exercise.
Did I ever tell you that I was at the base in Europe, that our planes took off in flight, and they're the ones that hit Libya?
No,
Did I ever tell you that?
no, you did not.
Okay. Okay, so they tell us on the ground, they're regarding, so they said it's cement, concrete they called it. Well, that means it's just an exercise. So they told us, who were really on the ground doing it, that it was concrete. So we're all in like relaxed mode. It's an exercise. We didn't find out till the next day, and France had told the world what was going on. So here I am, right there where it's happening, and I think it's an exercise. That's how I'm saying. That's how they do it to us. So you don't know. And I mean, literally took off my base. That was Upper Hayford, England. They took off from my base. And I'm sitting there guarding them.
The military, everything, it's compartmentalized. And I have this quote that's in my new book, Lie World, from the flight director of Apollo 11, where he was describing how back in the 60s, their simulations were so good that they were indistinguishable from the real thing, from the control room. And that's how this whole thing operates. I think it's all about compartmentalization. That's why I suggest that all of the programmers are at least 95% programmed. They're only let in on specific compartments.
Especially if they would have told the guys doing it, hey, this is just another exercise. And so in their mind, it's just another exercise. You know, they're, like you said, they don't know. And so I was literally right there and didn't know, but people on the outside knew. That was crazy. Anyway, so 25, get back to the population thing. From what I was a population guy very hard in the last 3 years because I've been following, I don't know if you ever followed it, Check Your Six on Odyssey and on BitChute. He's been keeping track every month of all the people dying in the local newspapers of all the young athletes. It's called Young Hearts. And he shows a video it's like on video 56 for monthly since this has been going on, of all the people dying, sudden deaths. And it's amazing. I get so sad sometimes watching it. So the population, what's the most you've heard someone say has gone down or have been affected by 2020?
I honestly think it was zero. I don't think there was any spike. And I have a few reasons for thinking so, but I have some very specific critiques of the people suggesting there was a spike, or that even like the whole premise that people are dying because of this thing. There's a few problems with that, because if somebody, quote, suddenly goes, then there's an autopsy. And I mean, there's a whole procedure here. And so what they're saying is these people are suddenly dying and they're getting clotted, for example. There's clots in the blood. And I don't want to get censored. That. Yeah, I don't want to get censored because we have to speak.
I know, that's why I said it. I said the event,
Look, everything was a hoax. Nobody died. Nobody cried. And I don't have any other perspective than that, other than the purpose behind it was the introduction of a new concept of sin, a new iteration for the priesthood to regulate the masses. And it's a concept of sin that the atheists believe in. And that's what the purpose, I believe, of introducing the pandemic model. It's a form of regulating people to the level of the individual. And we saw them flex that in 2020.
Well, we've talked about this before last year, and I told you, and of course, it's just me saying it, but I've had at least 6 friends. Right after, my doctor I'm from a little town where I was from, and it's isolated, and I think in my opinion, there were bad batches in certain areas. And if you remember,
well, look, we're treading into an area where I can get my channel shut down. So
I haven't said the V word or anything.
We got to be careful, though. We got to be careful. I'm saying, because one of my channels is monetized, but we all heard this and we dealt with it through 2020, 2021, 2022, and I just say it's all the fog of Psywar. But I am with you on the point that if they artificially inflated the populations in our minds, then they have billions of crisis actors to be eliminated who don't actually exist.
If you would, I know, and I know you're busy. If you have time, just check out on Odyssey. Is probably easier to find it. It's called Check Your Six, and it's spelled CHECK U with the word U. Not the word you, but check. Stands for your. Okay. And 6, the number 6.
Yeah, look,
just do that.
And for people,
look at that guy. He's not a.
Is he an is he an anti? Because like I refrain from following antis. I understand the pro position is bad, but the anti position is also bad. So I take the position of anti-pro, anti-anti. But if he's not a hardline anti, I may be interested in what he has to say, especially if he has a methodology.
He just shows headlines. He doesn't talk. He lets you read the headlines.
Okay.
And he's done a lot of work. He goes to all the small towns with the headlines don't get put in mainstream. It's just local papers he finds all this in
Okay.
that don't get picked up by the press. Did you know how they pick up the press? I didn't know that. Did you know how UPI picks up the news? That guy from
no.
huh?
How's that? How? Explain.
Duffy, because they were all saying when Duffy put his press release out, right? And they're going, oh, look, everybody's mocking Mockingbird. They're saying the same thing. Well, I found out what you do is Will Duffy wrote up his.
Yes, he did a press release. Yeah, exactly. There's some companies, I use one, where you write up your own news coverage and then you submit it.
Right.
And then all these unknown news sites from around the world will just replicate that story, and it saturates it. It's like, it makes it look like it's viral, but no, they wrote the stuff. They wrote their own copy. It's kind of.
Yeah, but he did his on the step higher where it got national. What he did is he paid $750 to the United Press, whatever that is, and they puts it on their ticket tape. And then all the news agencies will go to the United Press and look at their ticker tape, and they choose which story they want to run. And so he paid $750 to them to put it on the tape for like a billboard, maybe for 2 days or 1 day or something. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I didn't know it worked that way.
I've experimented with it for some time, and you can buy lists of reporters. So that's another thing to consider, that most of the reportage we see is inorganic and paid for. It really is. It's not like they're out there looking for facts and stories to tell us. No, a lot of it's driven by various interests.
Yeah, it's the AP I'm talking about, the major news source that the mainstream news gets from.
Yeah,
from Associated Press. And so he paid them. I didn't realize he paid them $750 to run his story, and anybody who wants to pick up the feed can pick it up. That's what you're saying, right?
Exactly. And in fact, you can pay people. A lot of these companies will have options. You pay a little more, you'll get a Google alert. You pay a little more, you'll get on this newspaper. So they essentially you're paying to get people to look at your stuff just like you would anywhere else. And I think the big trend now is to hire actors and actresses to put stuff on TikTok. And that's one of the things I plan to do to sell my tabloid, is to have TikTokers do reviews of specific articles in exchange for, payment and free subscriptions or something. But it's more effective than the traditional press release these days.
Yeah, it made me kind of like upset when these guys were when Duffy did that. I'm not for Duffy, trust me, but all the truthers starting. Oh, look, it's Project Mockingbird. They're doing it. No, that's the only story out there. He put it out there. If you're going to story, you have to take his story. There's only one person who put a press release out, and they're going, and they started doing all this news agency. Now I realize where all these news agencies, they're just given a script to read. They all read it the same. It's no different, right?
Yeah, and it also points out something else too, because any pull quote, any quote that you see on there was chosen by whoever wrote the press release. So it wasn't like a reporter did an interview, which means that that's a carefully scripted story. And looking at the quotes, it was made to make them look foolish. So that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, so now all this Project Mockingbird, which I think used to think they were trying to brainwash us no, they're just reading off the AP Press the story that was given to them. End of story, right? I never thought of. Do you think that's possible?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're not just talking about fake news and propaganda and noise, but we're talking also about agendas and opinions passed on as stories. So yeah, good to know. Good to keep in mind.
The one thing I did like though is hardly anyone catch it. They says, and that is a problem for our democracy. They said that's a problem for our democracy. Do you remember that one where it was over and over again?
Yeah, and again, the explanation here is simply that this is what media is, and repetition is a huge part of propaganda. I make that point quite a bit. That one of the reasons for what we see and experience.
We're not a democracy. That's the problem. They kept saying that 1,000 times. They never said republic. It's a democracy. So they're throwing democracy out there so hard during the elections. They keep saying democracy when we're supposed to be a republic.
But it mostly says something too about the uniformity of messaging. Like, so all the normies are getting the same programming, and that same sheet that we're all on is what holds the Truman Show together, and it's completely the same everywhere. It's actually remarkable. this synchronization that we all experience as a result of buying into the same paradigm.
Well, okay, I'm gonna let you go. My thing's on goes against your little prediction and stuff. I'm saying it's population for 2025, and if you promise to check out that channel Odyssey, I think you will find it fascinating.
Okay, I'll take a look. I'm
It's
so
no opinions, but your opinion.
I'm so white pilled that I don't even believe in death anymore most days. So anyway, hey, thanks for the call, and yeah, call back anytime. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Okay, so I'm very appreciative of all the supporters of this channel. I think 2024 was really one of our best years. And this year, well, the coming year, I look forward to the think tank physically and literally running over Goldfinch. And then I also look forward to AutoHoaxCon and splintering away, creating that fracture. We want to break away from Trutherville and have the parallel media emerge as a self-aware demographic that grows exponentially, metastasizes outside of the control of the guardrailed and gate-kept media. So again, thanks again for all the support and the comments. We have a very active think tank here. And 2025 is going to start off. I mean, it looks messy, but it's a good thing. It's very interesting. We have the Flat Earth movement has come back to life because now they're disputing whether or not their appointed representatives even went to the South Pole. So I think we're off to a great start. We've had multiple absurdist panics, and we're watching the unfolding of the Luigiite story. Are the Luigiites going to rise up like Joker's army and attack the establishment? Are we going to enter into the Civil War? Is Kamala going to take out Trump? Like, these are all interesting questions. And then we've got space junk looming overhead. So thanks everyone for the comments and calls. This is Symbia's Auto-Hoaxology. We will see you all tomorrow.
Live in chemtrails, I don't live in Trutherville. Just because you saw it on the screen doesn't make it real. I don't take the red pill, I don't take the blue pill. I just choose to follow my dreams, auto-hoax and chill. I stepped off the world stage and I've moved away from all the fake outrage and the hearsay. And I don't give the time of day to those that naysay, because they got a bad case of the mind day. I stepped away from the game entirely. I won't be caught up in their lame dichotomy. I stepped away from the cage entirely. I'm free today and my mind's been set by reading auto-hoaxology. Out of the control system finally. I know where to go if you follow me, cause I've been reading auto-hoaxology. Nothing can bother me, auto-hoaxology. Won't put the screen before it's blasphemy. I won't become another mind war casualty. I came up out the realm of possibility to take the helm of this reality. Cause I've been chillin' reading auto-hoaxology, rejecting all the expectations of the auto-believer, to become a new creation on the raft of receiver. Standing on the sword of truth, I stab the backs of deceiver, demanding burdens for the proof from all the hacks and believers. I stepped away from the game entirely. I won't be caught up in the lame dichotomy. I stepped away from the cage entirely. I'm free today and my mind's been set by reading auto-hoaxology. Out of the control system finally. I know where to go if you follow me, cause I've been reading auto-hoaxology. Nothing can bother me, auto-hoaxology. Won't put the screen before it's blasphemy. I won't become another mind war casualty. I came up out the realm of possibility to take the helm of this reality. Cause I've been chillin' reading auto-hoaxology. Suspending all the judgment, you won't get a reaction. Won't defend it, I won't budge until I get all the facts in. I won't